Hey guys, I hope you're all having a great summer and that it's just finishing out well, as we only have a couple more weeks until we're back on campus together. I know I'm having a great summer out here in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm like an hour outside of Boston. It's just been really fun traveling everywhere, and I've been seeing a lot of New England, which I've never really been out here before, or at least not in a really long time. I'm here at WPI and doing an REU, which is research experience. So I've been doing biomechanics research, a lot of MATLAB. You engineers know that struggle, but it's been really good. I've been learning a lot, but I've actually been a lot more homesick than I thought I would, which is really weird for me. I'm usually pretty good where I am, pretty happy in general, just like going with the flow, but these last few weeks have just actually been really hard on me, and so I've just been really longing to be back with you guys, like all my friends, and just be back with my family. And this is really just, I've been talking to a lot of people about it, and just drawing parallels to how we need to long to be home in heaven with Jesus, and that kind of relates to our study this week in Exodus. So let's get started here in Exodus 32 through 34. So kind of two themes throughout the chapter that I noticed were sin to redemption and then veiled to glory. And I read out of the Jesus Bible, so I'm just going to give credit to that right away. Just a lot of this is from there, but it's so amazing. And if you're looking for a new Bible, this is just a shameless plug that we got these Bibles at the Passion Conference, and it's just really amazing and relates everything back to Jesus, which is really awesome, especially in the Old Testament when it can get kind of rough reading and understanding, as I'm sure you all have experienced this summer. But if you want to stop watching the video right now, if you're busy or are tired of me talking already, I'll wrap it up for you right here, that my overall impression of these chapters are just praise be that we have Jesus, because without his sacrifice, I would be dead so many times over due to all of the idols and sin in my life. So if you want to be done, that's fine, but please stay with me as we carry on through this. So just starting in chapter 32, this was the golden calf, and I know I've heard this story many times, and probably you guys have too, but just reading over it with more like mature eyes and reading it as a child was really good. So just a quick overview. Have you guys read it before, or just to review what we have read? So basically people got like bored waiting for Moses to come down from this mountain, and we're like, let's make an idol out of a golden calf, or into a golden calf. What a great idea. And then God got really mad, as he should have. Like, that was fine. He's righteous. And I just know that reading this, like, I want Moses on my team advocating for me. And I'm just so thankful for friends that I have that would be like, God, don't like kill them all. And so just God's prayer to the Lord and talking to him represents just like how, or demonstrates that Moses just like understood that it was sinful, but he also just pleaded with God and showed him logically like why it made sense to have them still live, which was really awesome. And I think that's cool with talking to God and just being like, God, I know we've sinned, but like don't kill us all. And so that's always a good thing. But then I thought it was kind of ironic. Moses goes down the mountain and is still realizes how terrible it is, and gets really mad too, and breaks these tablets that he just had with God. And then a bunch of people end up dying anyway, paying for the sacrifice of the sin that had happened. And I think it's just the main point here is that like there has to be sacrifice to atone for the sins that are in this world. And so I'm just so thankful that Jesus has paid that sacrifice for us, that we don't have to kill animals or people, for all of the sin in our lives. And in the Jesus Bible, actually, over a couple chapters before that someone else did a video on, I thought it was really interesting. It talked about just priests and how like we think of this as this holy job, which it is, but they also had to deal with all the sacrifices. So it was really a sacrifice for them, dealing with like rotten animals, and it was just really disgusting, and I never really thought about that before. So I'm just really glad that we don't have to do any of that. But moving on, chapter 33 is really moving into the second theme that I talked about of a veiled life to glorifying life. And I really actually have been thinking a lot about glory this summer. I have like a Post-it note on my computer that says, by his grace for his glory. And that's just kind of been like one of my anthems this summer, that we can do everything by God's grace. And we're doing everything on this earth as a gift from him, for him. But one of the notes in the Jesus Bible talked about how glory is just representing and meaning like the weight and significance and importance of anything, specifically like religious things and things of the Bible. And Moses requested to see God's glory, which I was like, "Ooh, bold move, Moses!" Like, okay, but it's so amazing that in verse 11 it talks that the Lord would speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. And for those of you who know me, I kind of call everyone friend. So whenever like Jesus says like friends or anything in the Bible, I just like relate and get really excited. So I'm just like, wow, like that'd be so cool to just talk to Jesus as a friend. And that's what I long for. And I'll talk about later a little bit about just Moses in the presence of God. But going back to glory, just when Moses was requesting to see the glory of God, that's how it had to work, because Jesus wasn't there and that hadn't happened yet, and they're living by the old law. And so Moses was the only one who had this bond with God. But Paul says in 2 Corinthians 4:6, he just talks about how, here, I'll read it. For God, who said, let light shine out of darkness, made his light shine in our hearts and give us the light of the knowledge of God's glory displayed in the face of Jesus Christ. So although we don't necessarily talk face to face with God, through Jesus and his Holy Spirit, we can see the glory of God every day in little things. And I think that's so valuable to try and seek out the glory of God. And then lastly, in chapter 34, just continuing this idea of glory, so God and Moses make new tablets. And I really think it's interesting too, a side point, that it says God is a jealous God. And it's funny because we think of jealousy as a bad thing, but God's obviously righteous in all of his emotions, and he's jealous for our affections. And one of my favorite worship songs in high school talked about God being a jealous God, and just spend a lot of time understanding how God is jealous for our affections and our attention, and how we should be focusing on him more. And so God wants us to hang out with him and to study his word. And so it's just really cool that like he cares that much about us and what we are doing. And then just my last main point here is just when it talks about Moses' face being radiant. I thought that was such a cool idea. I mean, and it was real. It was more than an idea. It actually happened. But that when Moses came out of the presence of God, like people could barely look at him because he was just glowing. And we talk about like marital glow or like a motherly glow, but this was so much stronger than anything like that. And so then Moses had to wear a veil to separate this glory like that he was radiating from the average person. And number one, like I want to feel that close to God that I have to wear a veil. Like people should be like, whoa, Erica is crazy, which you probably all think that anyway, but for a more valuable reason. And I think it just shows too that or it goes to show like all of this, that without a sacrifice this veil would never have been broken. And so through Jesus's sacrifice, the veil was torn, and that's recorded throughout the Bible. And in the Jesus Bible, again, they drew this parallel of how the Old Testament was acted as a symbolic veil for the Jewish people. And since they had this veil of the law that they followed, they couldn't really experience the love of Jesus more so. I mean, Jesus didn't exist yet, but they weren't properly responding to the personal way that Christianity affects our hearts. And so this veil was more than something that you just like wore over your face. It was something that was in your heart. And I think that's so valuable to understand, that when we're just worried about rules and not a personal relationship with God, that it's a heart issue. After all, we're after God's own heart, and it's not just an outer thing. And we really need to look inward at what is happening, and this veil obviously can only be removed by Jesus and encountering Jesus. And so this is something that we should really want to grow closer to him and just love him, and then we can grow closer and see his glory. And so that's kind of the idea of going from a veiled life to one glorifying God and experiencing the glory of God. And that's just what I've been learning and what I learned from this few chapters. I know I talked for a really long time, so I'm sorry, but I'm just looking so forward to seeing you guys soon. I literally cannot wait to be back on campus, and I hope that I'll see you all at Freshman Move-In. And yeah, that's one of my favorite times of the year, just meeting people and having root beer floats, and it's just gonna be a great time. So hope to see you all soon.